Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said, "Beware of practicing your piety before others, in order to be seen by them. For then you have no reward from your Father in heaven. So, whenever you give alms, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be praised by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received the reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be done in secret. And your Father who is in secret and sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and in the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so as to show others that they are fasting. But truly I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head, wash your face, so that your fasting may be seen not by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. For do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Christ.
Please be seated. So, in today's reading, we heard Jesus say, "Beware of practicing your piety before others, in order to be seen by them, for then you have no reward from your Father in heaven." The very first verse, right out of the gate. And the key term here, in trying to understand what's going on, is the word piety. Now, if we were to translate this word piety in a little bit more of a literal fashion, from the original Greek, we would get the term righteousness. Now, in Matthew, this word righteousness is a big deal. Our alarm bell should be going off, and we should be saying, okay, something important is about to happen in this Gospel of Matthew. Now, after in Matthew's Gospel, we have the writer writing primarily to a Jewish audience. And this Jewish audience, they took righteousness very seriously. You see, it was vital to living in alignment with God's will. And see, the thing about righteousness is that at its essence, it means having right conduct and correct observance. Now, we then go on to today's reading and we get a few different examples. Jesus then says, okay, I'm going to contrast two different types of righteousness. First, this type of righteousness that is true and genuine. And then I'm going to contrast that with a type of righteousness that is basically an act, a facade. It's based in being hypocritical. And so Jesus then went on, right, with fasting and with almsgiving, and then also with praying, to talk about how true righteousness does not seek to be praised after caring for another. True righteousness does not need to be seen in prayer, and true righteousness does not make a spectacle out of religious and spiritual practices. But rather, on the other hand, spiritual true righteousness restores a right relationship with God and with others. So in other words, if none of that makes sense, this is what's happening. Imposter righteousness performs an act is trying to put on a performance because of the benefits that he, she, or they might receive from that performance. But true righteousness, here's the key to today's reading, true righteousness does it for the good of the cosmos. Well, as we begin this season of Lent, that is the journey that is before us. A journey towards moving ever so slightly towards God's understanding of what true righteousness looks like. And to do that, well, first we gather on a late winter evening to begin with truth-telling. We begin with the stark reality that you and I, we are just a tiny blip on the time horizon of the universe. We acknowledge that we come from the dust of the universe. This dust that has been around us and in us and moving through the very particles that we are made of for over 14 billion years. You see, tonight we acknowledge that our bodies will one day be void of the breath that is emblematic of life, and that we, each and every one of us, we will return to dust. Now, some of us might find this truth-telling on this late winter evening a little depressing in some ways. But for me, I actually find it a little bit inspiring and kind of tap into the mystical side of my own spirituality when I think about this. I mean, take a moment to think. If you are dust, stardust maybe, and I am also made of that same dust, you are dust, I am dust, then you and I, we are truly made up of this same essence of who we were created to be by God. And so that acknowledgement then lets us confess the lies that we are told over and over and over again by this world. We are able to confess that the ways that we have tried to say that your dust is not my dust, that our dust is not the dust of you all out there, but what we need to be true on this day is the reversal of what we believe each and every day. Today we name that you are the same dust, that I am the same dust, that we, all of us, we are that same dust. We are the dust of our ancestors. We are the dust of the universe. We are the dust of our God. And I have to say, for me, there's something a little bit comforting in that acknowledgement. This same dust for billions and billions of years. And you see, this is the central acknowledgement that we have before us during this Lent season. For the divisions that we see between nations and peoples, well, this comes from that false belief that we are at the essential nature of ourselves, that we are different. And that false belief in believing that we don't have the same essence, the same dust, the same earth at our core, well, that false belief, of course, has led to wars, more recently the war in Ukraine. That same false belief has led to the rejection of refugees and immigrants at our southern border and at borders across the world. That same false belief is what led officials to make accusations of child abuse against parents who love their transgender children. That false belief shows itself time and again when we ignore the realities of climate change, when we let personal comfort trump the protection of the most vulnerable, and when we look at how racism has begun at its origin. You see, the roots of this false belief are our inability to internalize that we have that same essence, the same dust. Let me be clear, that is not to say that we don't have beautiful differences that are to be appreciated, both racial, cultural, ethnic, sociological differences, but rather, what it is to claim, what we claim on Ash Wednesday, is that at our core, we are all essentially the same. We are dust. To really embrace this idea is really not an easy pursuit, and that's why we gather together as a community. It requires us to do things like put aside those lenses that prevent us from seeing the fullness of God and others. And that's why in the weeks ahead, over the next 40 days, we're going to challenge ourselves as a community to do this work together. In the days ahead, we're going to be beginning a Lenten journey that will seek to reveal how the limitations of a patriarchal lens have actually constricted how we understand God and how we understand others. We're going to then, through our Lenten project, as we do every year, we're going to have the opportunity to put our money where our mouth is, as we acknowledge that the financial gifts that we have first received from God, those gifts are not meant to be hoarded, but rather shared. Because we receive the gifts to give to one another, dust gives to dust, we are together on this journey. And so, friends, tonight is about that reality. It is about naming that we are dust. But it's not staying in that sort of place. For it is also about being reminded that we are joining with each other on a journey. And so I invite you this night on a journey with me, with us, with this community. To walk with each other as we seek to align ourselves with God's true righteousness. To then remind me that I need it, and to allow me to remind you of that dusty cross that we will soon have on our forehead. And to be reminded that with that dusty cross, that is marked in the same place where in our baptisms we too were reminded of God's love, God's presence. For we have a God who embodies the fullness of our interconnected essence. We have a God who is the totality of that dust and is a fullness of all the dust that is. We have a God who is a God of love that binds this dust together in love. Let this be our journey of love, a journey of honesty, and a journey that we do